This man had a big knife on his passenger seat, and when this cop approached him, he went straight for the knife. That's when all hell broke loose.
No, sir. What seems to be... I'm gonna take the trip.
You don't touch one thing in my car. You want to pull your gun on me? You son of a...
Get somebody else over here now.
Oh my God, you can't pull your gun on me? Look at him. You don't ever reach in my car. You understand that? That's a violation of my Fourth Amendment right.
Get out of your vehicle.
You are in trouble, pal. You get your supervisor here right now. And until your supervisor gets here, I'm going to plead the Fifth. Now get your supervisor here. You son of a bitch, and I got you on film doing that.
Get out of your vehicle.
No, I'm not getting out of my vehicle. Go ahead, shoot me. You reached into my vehicle. A weapon? You have a semi-automatic weapon, a taser, and a bulletproof vest. And you're worried about a knife. You dumbass. That's how stupid.
Welcome back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a law enforcement trainer instructor. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, use of force, advanced criminal investigations, etc. And we're going to do a case law breakdown of this video. Now, let me just caveat this in the beginning. So when you guys make ridiculous statements in the comment section, I can just revert back to this part of the video clip, because that's just how ridiculous the comment section is nowadays. Let me caveat with this. I do not like how the officer handled this. I think he handled it extremely poorly, and I will link a video in the description box below about how I, as a police trainer, advocate against disarming law-abiding citizens on traffic stops. Now, is there a time and place for everything? Sure, but I actively advocate against doing that, and so I'm going to link that in the description box below. So inevitably, when you guys just go on there and make ridiculous statements in the comment section, I can just pin this, and then you can look dumb, and then we can move on. So with that being said, again, I don't advocate for removing Second Amendment implements from people. I believe it's our God-given right. And I believe the Constitution of the United States of America affirms our Second Amendment rights, which we're going to talk about here more in a second. With that being said, though, we have to understand that case law, Supreme Court case precedents pursuant to in accordance with Mayberry versus Madison and judicial review allows the Supreme Court to make articulation of constitutional rights and interpret laws, and so they have done that, and I'm presenting that to you in this case. Now, you're probably not going to like what the Supreme Court case precedent says, but it is what it is. And for those of you that say it can't be changed, you're absolutely wrong. Look what happened with Roe v. Wade, right? It takes people understanding the reality of where we're at and accepting the reality, and then making positive changes to create a better reality for yourself. So say what you want, but again, say whatever you want. Just realize you may look foolish and dumb in the end. So the first thing that I think is super important that we understand is what the Second Amendment means, right? A lot of people out there think the Second Amendment means pew-pews, right? Means firearms. That's not the case. Anybody that thinks that the Second Amendment is just about firearms is dumb, ignorant, foolish, whatever you want to call it. It's not just about firearms. I know this is going to become as a huge shock to people. And when I teach my concealed carry course, people are just completely shocked by this. But the Supreme Court has affirmed, and the Constitution has affirmed, and I believe our founding fathers made it evidently clear in what they were writing, but apparently it wasn't clear enough. The Second Amendment is about the term bearable arms, right? Right to bear arms. Well, what does that mean? Well, the Supreme Court has made it very clear. So in Cantonillo versus Massachusetts, 2016, the Supreme Court unanimously vacated a Massachusetts conviction of a woman who was carrying a stun gun for self-defense. The Supreme Court affirmed the Second Amendment extends prima facie to all instruments that constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of the founding fathers, and when the Second Amendment is fully applicable to the states. And the Second Amendment right is fully applicable to the states. The term bearable arm was defined in Columbia versus Heller in 2008, so this isn't new, and includes any weapon of offense or a thing a man wears for his defense or takes into his hands that is carried for the purpose of offensive and defensive action. So, a taser 100% falls in line with the Second Amendment. A knife 100% falls in line with the Second Amendment. Don't make it difficult, guys. You should be happy. You should be happy the fact that the Supreme Court has finally said what we already knew. And they did that back in 2008. So there you have it. Take a screenshot. Take a photo of it. That's always a really common one when I teach this course. Everybody loves taking a photo of that. Feel free to have that. Share it with your friends. Hopefully you learned something there. So the next thing that I think it's important that we talk about and understand is what is a seizure as it relates to traffic stops, right? Because in this video, you clearly saw the police officer was conducting a traffic stop. He saw the firearm and what I would consider and what we all know to be plain view doctrine, right? Off the top of my head, when we're talking about plain view doctrine, we're talking about Supreme Court case precedents like Coolidge versus New Hampshire in 1971, Horton v. California, 1990, and then Minnesota versus Dickerson, 1993. And so, plain view doctrine, saw the knife, and then went to seize it. Well, let's talk about seizures for a second. The United States Supreme Court has affirmed that all occupants in a vehicle during a legal traffic stop are in fact seized. Again, Pennsylvania v. Mims, 1977, Maryland v. Wilson, 1997, and then Maryland v. California, 2007. Again, Supreme Court case precedents. The next thing that we need to talk about, and I think it's important that we talk about that, is Michigan v. Long. Michigan v. Long is a really important case law because it talks about when you can Terry frisk a car. So the United States Supreme Court has concluded that roadside encounters are especially hazardous and that danger may arise from the possibility of weapons in the area near a suspect. For that reason, the court has found that extending the area of a frisk to the passenger compartment of a car is reasonable where there is reason to believe that there may be weapons in the vehicle. Michigan v. Long, 1983. Again, not a new case law. So, did the officer have reasonable suspicion to believe that there was a weapon there? He absolutely did because he saw it. Plain view doctrine. He saw the weapon. Everybody in the vehicle on a legal traffic stop is seized. Therefore, if he wanted to secure that knife, that weapon, that Second Amendment implement, pursuant to case law, he is allowed to do that and conduct his business. Again, you may not like it, but that's what the Supreme Court says. Now, here's other interesting case law, and I think that, again, for me, it goes without saying, but for those of you that, are still a little iffy, there comes this conversation about, well, he didn't pose a threat to the officer, so the officer had no right to take it. Well, again, you've seen the case law, you've seen the body of case law, but in case you need more to put the nail in the final coffin for you, let's talk about it. Once an officer has reasonable suspicion to stop a suspect, the officer may conduct a limited search for weapons if the officer reasonably believes the defendant may be armed and dangerous, pursuant to in accordance with Terry v. Ohio. So a lot of people use this as, well, just because you're armed doesn't mean you're dangerous. Well, who gets to decide what is dangerous? Well, I'm glad the courts have already established this. Being dangerous automatically follows being armed, for the risk of danger is created simply because the person who is forcibly stopped is armed. Whether the person lawfully carries a firearm or a Second Amendment implement is inconsequential because the danger justifying a protective frisk arises from the combination of a forced police encounter and the presence of a weapon, not from any illegality of the weapon's possession. Legally carried firearms are just as dangerous as illegally carried firearms. And again, the case law on this, right? Terry v. Ohio, 1968, United States versus Robinson, 2017, and Walker versus Lovejoy, 2019. And the reason why this is important, right, and the reason why I'm adding this is because when we talk about Michigan v. Long, the weapon that was seized during that Terry frisk of the car was a knife. So just in Michigan v. Long, 1983, we're good. The officer, 100%, we've met the requirement with case law because in that Supreme Court case precedence, the thing that was seized was in fact a knife. But furthermore, right, we see that the courts are stating that yes, if you are armed and you are forcibly stopped by law enforcement, you are dangerous by the fierce fact that you are being forcibly stopped against your will. You're being seized 100%. So the risk with that presents danger. And again, this idea that people who are carrying lawfully are not dangerous is ridiculous, right? And so let me just caveat this. Why do we have, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. The part we're not allowed to say out loud, I'm going to say it because I love doing this in my course because it gets people, it gets things real silent real quick. So, I will state, I'll be emphatic about this. And if it hurts your feelings, again, I really don't care. But the legality or illegality is of no consequence when we're talking about dangerous, right? I would argue, and I think I have a pretty good argument, that a knife, a firearm, a Second Amendment implement in the hands of a Tier 1 operator who is trained and has training experience, it's much more dangerous than in the hands of an untrained habitual user of intravenous methamphetamine. I know it's going to sound really crazy, but your Tier 1 operators, your Tier 2 operators, your Tier 3 operators, even people who are trained on the Second Amendment and its implements, who go through training and are constantly training, are much more dangerous than your average everyday today gangbanger. It's just, it is what it is, right? The Second Amendment, and then let's talk about the part no one. What's the purpose of the Second Amendment? You guys threaten it all the time in the comment section below. What is the purpose of the Second Amendment? What is it? To stop tyranny, right? People have the Second Amendment because they believe one day they're going to have to start killing people. So how can you sit here and tell me in one breath that the Second Amendment isn't dangerous, right? And then in the comment section, you're constantly threatening to end tyranny. Can't make it make sense, can you? So again, I'm not, and again, like I said at the very beginning, I'm not a fan of disarming law-abiding citizens. I'm not. I advocate against it. But if we look at the case law, again, the case law is pretty clear here. Like it or not, case law is very clear. The officer has every right to remove weapons from seized people. So, again, that's the case law precedence. I know you may not like it, but hey, it's a good learning. It's a good learning tool. It's a good video. And once we can accept this hard pill to swallow, once we can accept the reality of it, boom, maybe it's time for amazing, wonderful people like yourself to be the change that you wish to see. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Please tell me. I'm curious. Please tell me what you think in the comment section below. And for those of you that are 100% reasonable, 100% like in reality, I want to know what your thoughts. Give me something to pin. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Again, tell me what you think in the comment section below. And if you're interested in knowing what I train officers and what I believe in as it regards to this whole thing, please watch my video. Again, it's linked in the comment section below. Well, as always, guys, long live the Republic.